Alright, bitches. We're on location. So I got off a plane yesterday. Over the last 30 hours, I've probably had like 9 hours of sleep, and that was mostly the 6 hours from last night. Prior to that, it was like 3 on a plane, 45 minutes on a train. Oh yeah, I'm kind of in Amsterdam. Right now I'm overlooking some canals in the city of Zaandam. Zaandam is a small town right outside of Amsterdam, about 20-minute train ride, and I have to say I'm staying in the wackiest hotel I think I've ever seen. Amsterdam is referred to as the Venice of the North, and for pretty good reason. Over 165 canals are in the city alone that encompass over 100 miles. There are 4 main ones: the Single, the Kritiskarset, Pringles, and the 4th one. Yeah, I speak Dutch, I swear. Now, considering this city was founded and built over 400 years ago, the idea of building an entire city, especially a major trade port, on water, they had to create their own islands. How the hell did they do that? Now, the original piles that Amsterdam was built on was actually just very large wooden stakes. And for some of the smaller buildings, they had to find the first layer of sand in order to drive themselves into, about 10 to 15 meters. For the larger, heavier buildings, they had to find the first layer of boulder clay, where at some parts of the city could be at least 60 meters deep. So these wood stakes would have to be 60 meters long. Behind me is the Royal Palace that was actually built in the mid-1600s and used as a town hall for over 100 years. After its time of being used as a town hall, actually the kings of Holland lived here, one of those being Napoleon's brother. Now, in an odd twist of fate, my own brother lived here for 3 days in 2007 before they found him, arrested him, and barred him from entering the country. Suck it, Jimmy. Now, this building was built as the rest of Amsterdam was. It was built on the same piles as everything else. This building alone has over 13,000 wood piles supporting it. We'll talk about these wood piles and how they've actually deteriorated over the centuries and caused a few issues. Today, when new buildings are built, these new piles are no longer made of wood. A vast majority of them are steel tubes filled with cement. But as for the unfortunate older buildings, especially in the very, very center of the city, they have some issues. So the tilted houses in Amsterdam are actually notoriously famous. Not only are they tilted, but these houses are notoriously narrow. And that's actually because the original tax burden that the city of Amsterdam put on the original constructors of these houses. You were taxed based on how narrow your house was. The Dutch are really protective over their canal views. And another tax rate that they had on these house constructions was how many windows you have. A lot of these houses in Amsterdam have 1 or 2 larger windows per floor, but then you have homes like this. Massive expanses that takes up dozens of feet of canal space, and then you have the little tiny dozens and dozens of windows. This was to show people how wealthy you are, that you can afford a house that is taxed extraordinarily high. And then on the complete opposite end of this was my favorite part. They have apartments like this. This apartment right here. It's the second smallest apartment in Amsterdam. Just look at the bike in comparison to the width. So, to be fair to the original constructors, the original idea of the wood piles was actually a good one, as long as they were completely immersed in water at all times. The problem is, over the years, with issues of water collection, flooding, and erosion, the watershed, or the water authority, if you like your English, they had to come in and raise and lower the water in order to protect against these things, which resulted in sometimes even a small amount of time, those wood piles were exposed to air and they started to rot. This in turn, hundreds of years later, these wood piles have weakened and the houses began to tilt. But unfortunately, the other reason why a house could be tilting is because of your neighbors. It's always the fucking neighbor's fault. If your neighbors did any sort of renovation on their home, periodically the original construction depended on the houses slightly leaning, putting a little weight on your neighbor's home. So then all of a sudden, your neighbor does a renovation and your house starts to compensate. God. I should tell you guys about my neighbors. Now, some of the houses in Amsterdam actually lean forward a bit, and thankfully this is a little more purposeful than tilting from side to side. So if you buy a house in Amsterdam, you won't have to worry about your house accidentally falling in two different directions. Great. So the first reason that these houses leaned forward is called jettying, which is essentially when folks were building their homes, they wanted a little more square footage on the upper floors. So they just built them a little bigger. And actually this design had an additional advantage that they could position the roof in such a way that water would more easily flow off it, reducing the issues resulting from a leaky roof. Now the second reason has to deal with the trade and shipping that Amsterdam was founded upon. If you're walking down pretty much any street next to a canal, you're gonna see these hooks at the very top of the roof. Now these hooks aren't just for looks. They're actually actively used even today. In times of either a flooding of the canals or a delivery of new goods, these hooks were used as a pulley system in order to hoist goods up to the upper floors, and the leaning forward of the homes kept any subtle sway from going through a second-story window. And the last reason, yeah, as expected, it was petty as hell. It was just rich people being rich. They literally wanted their homes to lean over the sidewalks and appear more prominently to the common man, like literally hovering over middle class and poor people. Great. At the end of the day, whether you're a walker or a biker or someone that gets their cat put onto their beanie, yeah, Amsterdam really is for everybody. There is something there for everybody. Not only the history, but you have the coffee shops and the pastry shops, the bars, the great beer. Amsterdam truly is a playground for anybody who visits. But until next time, cheers.